You're now listening to Keeba-Live on the Disruptors Podcast Network. Welcome, everybody, to Keeba-Live. I'm your host, William Lee, podcaster, podcast producer, and the co-founder of the Disruptors Podcast Network. I've often wondered what this community would be like and what the actual consensus of how we live in our communities, how we govern ourselves, and what changes we make as environmental changes take effect and as other political effects really affect us every day. Now, just the other day, I was in the doctor's office having my 50-year mile, I always call it, tune-up. And as I'm sitting there waiting for the doctor to arrive, I see a great big sign posted on the wall. And in great big bold letters, it says, "Attention patients and visitors. Our clinic is healing environment. Aggressive behavior will not be tolerated." Examples of this aggressive behavior would include physical assault, verbal harassment, abusive language, sexual language directed at others, threat, and failure to respond to the staff's instruction. I never thought in all the years that I've been going to doctors that I would ever see a sign that, just made this statement. It was like we were in a protected but harassed environment, one which even the patients and the doctors and the visitors had to be, shall we say, on their toes and a little bit nervous about. Now, yes, that's a healing environment. There's no doubt. What has happened to us? Have we got to the point now where we can't even go in and talk to our doctors without sexually harassing them or being violent towards them because maybe something that has happened to us physically or mentally is their fault? Have we gotten to the point where we are so, shall we say, criminalized in our minds and so feared of what's going to happen one day after the next in our own, what I would call environments of a community, which was many years ago a safe place to be? Have we changed it around because law and order is now fainting into the sunset? Because now we have more individuals running around, threatening people, shooting people. Drive-bys, car thefts, and hijackings are just as a common thing now. The first thing that I spot when I understand that we come out of the pandemic, shall we say, kind of fearful of viruses and bugs, what do you think actually emotionally happened to us during the time that we were isolated? COVID-19 had more of an after effect than maybe the disease did. The after effect being that now even senior citizens are more inclined to say, we'd love to go or do this or take a ride in the park or meet with you folks, but we're not feeling quite 100%, and maybe next time we'll get together. Maybe next time there isn't a next time, simply because the fear factor of what we've gone through in 2 years of isolation has caught up with us. Many of us, naturally, after the isolation, started getting involved again. But all of a sudden, crime and all the political garbage that's going on made us more hostile. Could this be the reason why that sign is hanging on the wall? Could it be the reason that when you go in and you don't feel well and you have this anger build up, that the first person you want to take it out on is the doctor? Why, doctor? Why, doctor, do I feel this way? Why couldn't you have taken care of my problems when I was in here the last time? Don't you understand? I'm sick. Very interesting, wouldn't it be, to find out how many patients actually feel that way? Well, there must be quite a few when you have to put signs up on the wall. I noticed when I was talking to my doctor and giving her kind of the insight of what the disease problem was in the world, because we love to chat a little bit about podcasting, but she came back with such an interesting answer. And the answer was simply this. She looked at the sign. She says, "Oh, yeah, the sign on the wall." What an answer. You say, that's interesting? It really is, because it told me that she was confident enough to know that she didn't have to worry about those things. Maybe the great governing corporation is concerned about having to pay out on lawsuits or things of this nature, which boil over into the clinics. Hey, that's business, and I understand business. But what I don't understand is the constant fear factor that we have to keep posting everywhere we go. It's incredible how subconsciously, when you see a sign on the wall that tells you that they're definitely afraid that maybe something violent's going to happen, but you've got to understand we're going to lower the boom, we're going to have you arrested, we're going to throw you off the property if you even bat an eyelash in the wrong direction. This is a fear factor, folks. This is the fear factor that we have accumulated through the last couple of years. Now add the part to this equation that, the cost of living is going up. What am I going to do? Gas. I don't know if I can afford to go on my holiday trip this year. Gas has gone up 20 cents a gallon. Taxes completely are out of hand. As I've said so many times, in the state of Washington, the blue-collar worker can't really afford not to make sure he hits every day of work at a high proficiency rate, that he can really understand that every dollar he gets, he has to stretch and stretch and stretch because the politicians keep coming up with potholes, bad air, environmental changes that force them into having to up the tax rates. Remember back in the 1980s? I can remember when we started talking about gambling. Now, the state of Washington was anti-gambling. There wasn't any gambling going on. My goodness gracious, that was a sin. But then all of a sudden, the tax people in Olympia, if we let them play a game, if we let them play a game and they wanted that game, well, they'd lose some money. And if they won money, that would give us the opportunity to go ahead and completely tax games. Tax everything you do. I'm surprised we don't have a water tax on how much water we drink or how much urine we give up in a day. This taxation without representation is totally out of control. And that anger that manifests itself within emotional and psychological approaches of a human being oftentimes shoot out of the darkness and attack people that it shouldn't normally have had to be attacked, or even the situation shouldn't have even come up in a normal situation. We are losing it. And the only way I can think of that we can get back on track again is to start conversations amongst our doctor. Start conversations with our political leaders, if they're listening. Go into the schools and start getting involved with what is being taught to our kids. Let's turn this around. Let's say, I've had enough. Now it is my turn to speak out. If we get enough people that can speak out and talk about in a civil, not, the terrible protest. I don't want people to think that I'm advocating going out and taking a sledgehammer and going to Olympia and smashing out windows and threatening people. I'm talking about a silent protest where we as the voters, we as the citizens, we as the workers and educators get together and work ideas out through conversation, which then we can start action with. Action that has built this country. Now, there is no reason in the world that we have to continue to suffer and be totally scared of what's going to happen tomorrow, especially if you're a senior citizen. This country was built with freedom and rights, but not the horrible situation that we have now that's coming down and being harder on our living styles, harder on our economy. Our leaders in Washington, D.C., for instance, well, they've all gone to lunch, the majority of them, and some of them, needed to leave the lunchroom many years ago. We need new blood. We need new conversation. We need new activities going on in Washington, D.C. so that it will migrate into our state and get more and more people interested in getting things accomplished in a positive light. Our leaders, most of them, need to retire. They've done a great job when they first started, but unfortunately, the greed, time, and to the point where they set themselves on a shelf above the rest of us, that's we, the taxpayers, then we have a problem. And the problem is that they need to take a breath. They've done their job. It's time to let new blood come up. It's time to actually mentor new people to take those positions so that we have a new tomorrow. Not the same old drag. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 91 years old and I've been in Washington state government for the last 60 years. Now, I don't say old age is bad, but it's slowing me down a little bit. But I don't want you all to worry because we're going to cut the medicine price bills down. We're going to get more medicine in here at a better price. Big companies aren't going to attack us in our wallets anymore. Well, how about politics? How about politicians and their tax schemes not attacking us anymore? Let's start there, shall we? I hope that this conversation today helps us think a little bit more about the signs that we see of the changing of times. Not just the simple sign that was in the doctor's office, but all the signs that are in our communities. From kids learning to, oh, forget history, it's too tough on you. From us understanding as parents that schools do not have the right to raise our children. They are basically there to have the right to educate. And that education will change the lives of those children that will be stepping out as adults in the adult world. Now, they need our support. They need to have a safe environment to learn. Teachers with good credentials that are really teaching and believe in what they're doing need our support. This is the time now that we will look back at the pandemic as a beginning of a new and, I hope, better built and safer communities for all of our families. We don't need a sign that tells us to behave. We need a sign of positive thought. The positive thought of the better tomorrow, that the light in the tunnel is getting brighter. And the more that we work on communication skills and getting involved in the community in a sensible American way of doing what I call community spirit, things are going to change. There's going to be a big change. And it's going to be a positive change, which we can hand down to our kids, and they can hand to their kids for generations to come. Building America, not tearing it apart. Building families, not destroying them. Building crime prevention and not allowing and desensitizing individuals, cutting budgets, and placing good people as targets in our community for a job that they have signed up to protect. We need communication. We need a simple conversation. Well, thank you very much for listening today. I would appreciate it if you would send me a note and tell me what you think of the show. You can send that to Keeba, Keeba Agency, or on gmail.com, or you can send it over to keeba-smiling. We have a little spot on our website which you can actually do a verbal reprimand if you're upset with me, or maybe you want to share some more ideas about our shows and what we can bring up in the next generation, as I call it, of 2024, when the election polls will start. Wouldn't it be a great time to start a conversation now? And maybe we could get something done. So until we meet again, I want you to think about this. Keep a positive thought in your mind. Love in your heart for others, and give the community a helping hand up for a better America and a better tomorrow. This way, we'll always keep us smiling. Bye.